What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to be talking a little NBA basketball on this Tuesday. Interesting Monday. I'll turn it over to Sheets in a minute. I actually, the house injury killed me on Fanduel. I had him locked in. Not that he was some sort of smash play, but I did think he was going to be safely to getting me my 20-ish points, or even if he gets me 5 more. I ended up 5 points off the cash line or 3 points off the cash line in every single tournament I played, except for a couple I cashed in that were the smaller buy-ins, but. That's a few $1,000 that it cost you there. That would have been nice, and it would have taken me over to a nice night. Missed in a couple spots. Embiid, with the 2.5 quarters of play wasn't enough for me to get him there. I needed the extra quarter so he could catch up with Jokic, and made some other good plays, but just didn't quite take it home. Ready to get back after it. I felt good about the process. I didn't, me and Sheets talked about it. Sheets kept mentioning the PJ Washington coming off of that spot. He was really right on that. It is tough after that many minutes and all those things. I still think going back that more times than not, he's going to be okay there. But I ended up with 35% of the minutes only. But initially I was going to lock him in. So I'm glad I didn't do that. But a mediocre night, ready to turn it around back to the right thing tonight. Sheets, what about you? Tell me about your night.
I'll just say again, and if I contribute nothing to Daily Fantasy Sports or to Bobby or to anybody else, I'll bring my past experience from other gambling to here. And my first of all, my nickname, the Sheets, comes from the Sheets, which is the data source from which I derive a lot of my horse racing stuff. And one of the basic tenets of horse racing, betting on a horse race, is that horses are not machines. And whenever a horse puts out an effort that it's never run before and is back on short rest, it's just naturally going to what they call bounce. And that's just a natural thing for horses to do. And likewise, even when I did sports betting in the past, I would always bet against teams that put on incredible performances if they were playing right back again. And I don't know if it makes any sense. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's relevant in DFS or not, but it's just the way I've always played. It's the way I've always just kind of analyzed them, because these are not, as we talk about a lot, these are not just data points on a spreadsheet, right? As much as I try out my spreadsheet and flex my spreadsheet and show my stuff going on, these are not data points. These are living, breathing things that do not recover emotionally or physically in a short period of time, and it's I don't know how to quantify it, but it's just something to consider. And I certainly, at the very least, is a tiebreaker for me, And and also, I mean, when you have a situation like that, coupled with with high ownership, again, now I'm learning a little bit. You know what I mean about then I'll give it more credit. Then if a guy puts up a big performance and then he's back again the next night and nobody's going to play him, maybe I'll give him a break.
Right.
So we'll see every day. Look, and one of the reasons why I love this sport, this exercise, whatever you want to call this, is it's always a learning experience. So once the game is figured out, then it's won't be fun to play anyway. You know what I mean? So let's move on to another slate of Toronto not playing.
Yeah, it's too bad. By the way, it always. That's been probably one of my most successful teams I've played this year is Toronto, and I've probably made more money with them than I have with anybody else, just because I feel like there's always a glitch in the fact that no one plays them and that one of them basically is on the winning lineup every time. Anyway, we'll get into game by game, and you know what, we've talked about waiting and how that can be valuable. For example, last night Cody Martin was a much, in my opinion, a much better play. Like a lot of projections had Jalen McDaniels starting that game. I think Cody Martin, the fact that he was starting was a pretty good indicator that he at least had a chance to close if the game was close. And he ended up sure enough doing so. But that's just one example. Still though, tonight, it's going to be hard to avoid this first game, especially from the Memphis side, Sheets. And let's talk about it, because I have a lot of guys I'm interested in, but there is just warning to all out there. There's basically no way, even in this matchup, that like 5 or 6 guys are going to get there, but there's 5 or 6 guys I want to play tonight. And we don't even know the status of Kyle Anderson yet. If he's out, boy, oh boy. I mean, I just think there's so much upside for everybody. What happens with Memphis is, first of all, they've been blown out a lot. They've actually blown a few teams out, and they have so many bodies that the usage kind of spreads around. But if you get that tight game the right way, you're going to you could make a fortune on this team with a little 3-man or a 4-man stack potentially, especially if you're running it back. So who do you like on the Memphis side? And then
so right now my top three. So this is my landscape. Like if the slate locked like in 5 minutes, my top three values on the whole slate are Memphis guys. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately or fortunately, Beal and Westbrook are top 10 values too for me. So it's a natural game stack right off the bat. I will say right now that when a guy who also is like on the higher price side, especially I can put it, is also like a top point per dollar play. It doesn't happen all too often, and that's really tough to fade. And Morant's just really difficult to fade as far as I'm concerned. So he's got to be a zillion% owned. Okay, but I'm going to start with that. So Morant is my favorite play on the entire board, and then the next two guys I have are Bane and Winslow. So two totally different kind of guys, right? Then the next logical guys for me are Valanciunas and Dylan Brooks, but for me, I got to go way down to get not way down. I mean, they're still I'd say top 15 values, but I think those top three kind of stand out. I didn't consider stuff like Xavier Tillman and Tyus Jones and stuff like that. Maybe I can get talked into it. That's my initial look is that. And then on just, while I'm here, just the Washington side, I can't separate from a value perspective Beal or Westbrook. So I'll probably pick one or have you direct me to the right one to play, or maybe play one in one lineup, one or the other.
So here's what I'm struggling with. It's actually interesting because all the names you mentioned aren't even the guy who's my second favorite play on this team, which is Brandon Clark. I think that I don't know what's happening exactly because I think that the perception of his minutes versus his actual minutes are wrong. So each game I could explain away. I mean, they won by 48 in the last game. He put up 36 in 20 minutes. He played 16 minutes in the blowout to get lost to the Clippers. He only played 22 minutes in the front end of that back-to-back, but that made sense because he's coming off the injury. So that was a back-to-back. Then you had him against Dallas, which, again, he played 26 minutes in that game. And then the game before that, he played 33 minutes. There's been blowouts. There's been weird situations. I'm not so sure Brandon Clark in this matchup doesn't play 30 minutes. If Brandon Clark plays 30 minutes in this matchup, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't have 30 fantasy points. And I'm talking with upside of 40 plus easily. So I love him as a tournament play. I actually have him as my second highest owned player behind Morant here. My issue with Morant is that he's going to be 1,000,000% owned. And I can just tell you, hey, game log, scoreboard, whatever, go look at the scoreboard and game log and see how often he misses. And it's not just that he's like high variance, the team is high variance and they've got a lot of bodies and they will cruise with the second unit when they're rolling. So maybe if you're going to try and play all these other guys, because I do like Winslow and I do like Bane, but I think you want to try to keep a little bit of, you don't want to play him, I don't think, with Winslow and Bane, for example, because there's a chance on that second unit gets going and he doesn't come back till 2 minutes to go in the second quarter when he gets his first break, like they do sometimes. They did that in the fourth quarter in one game earlier this season. So I'm just throwing it out there. And Middleton, they've got back who they can play. Tyus Jones, who you're not playing, but I mean,
am I sharing my screen or not? Yeah, I am. Okay.
Yeah, you are. But so I'm just saying that there's a lot of there's a lot more variance in his.
Yeah, I have him, and I was able to figure this out, how to find these. So I have kind of an average minute projection of him of about 24 minutes.
Of Clark.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't buy anybody's thing. It doesn't matter to me. They're all, in my opinion, they're all wrong. They're guessing at.
Forget that they're wrong. What your point is that there's more upside from that than downside. You know what I mean? And if that's what they're quote unquote projecting, that's what people are crunching based on those projections, then you're going to have an edge on the field.
Right.
If there's more upside from that than downside, that's all.
I totally agree. And I would bet that he ends up above 24 minutes here. I mean, if I had to think of a percentage, I would say 80% of the time if the game is close. I really do. He does get in foul trouble sometimes too, but that shouldn't keep him from playing 25 minutes. I mean, I just think it's been fluky the way that it's gone. And he was so great the other day against Houston that he was part of them just absolutely beating them by 50 points. So you've had some really fluky games for Memphis lately. Just keep that in mind. That's what I would say about in relation to him. I also do like Joval. You don't want to play Brandon Clark and Joval in the same lineups very often. The problem with Joval is a little different. He tends to at times struggle in these fast-paced games. I mean, even against Houston, he didn't play, but they didn't really need him anyway. Again, another massive blowout. But you could tell he doesn't thrive as much in these high-paced matchups. He actually played well in those Clippers matchups. And he hasn't really put up that monster ceiling game in a while, but individually, he should have a huge edge against whoever Washington wants to throw out at center. So the price is nice on him. I have it ranked Morant, Clark, but that's partially due to the ownership, obviously. Valanciunas, then Dillon Brooks. But Dillon Brooks would jump ahead if Kyle Anderson is out. So as would Desmond Bane, as would Justice Winslow, it's crazy to say this many names, but as would all these guys, Tyus Jones potentially too. I think you want to mix Memphis guys in. I don't think you're getting away with not playing at least one of them on this weird slate. And I think you're going to have to get exposure different ways in multiple lineups. But obviously Morant is going to be the chalk. And if you're starting a cash game, you want to start with him. I'm just making the devil's advocate argument against him. And part of my frustration is at these prices, without the value yet anyway, it's hard to be in love. I like Westbrook and Beal. I don't know that they're my favorite guys when you literally don't need to pay that much more if you're going to get up to Giannis and Joker and all those guys. I don't know what to say. I'm struggling with it a little bit. Right now I've got them programmed in I think at about 20%. I really want to run back because I want to play a few Memphis guys, but I don't know how badly I need to play these guys. And then there's the Mo Wagner, very strange starting situation that he's got going on. He'll start and then play a few minutes and then he's out. And every now and then they'll play him 20 plus minutes and he'll put up 35 fantasy points. It's really high variance, but he is a guy worth punting with, I guess. So that's my only interest on the other side. And I think Beal and Westbrook are literally like neck and neck tonight for who I would rather play on DraftKings. I think that I don't know. I guess I give a slight edge to Westbrook because he doesn't need to score to do anything, but Beal's going to score anyway. So it's really close between the two of them for me.
Okay, well that's helpful to me. That's for sure.
Who did you have, Sheets?
Like I said, I when I was going over it, I said that I'm like really torn between the two. Mm-hmm. And I was hoping you can give me some guidance, and that's pretty good guidance. That you think that it's close. You know what I mean?
Is it good? I feel like it's bad guidance. I feel like I did that.
It's down. What are you kidding me? It's extremely good guidance. I mean, it means that I'm probably going to get equal exposure to both. You know what I mean? Like that I'll play one or the other. I mean, it was the confidence that you said. Look, you could be just as if someone's confident that it's close. To me, that's just as powerful an opinion as if someone is confident that it's not close. You know what I mean? It's the level of confidence that something exists it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like,
I totally agree with you.
Like if I'm like sure that the MMA slate is a bad slate, that's a really strong opinion. You know what I mean? Like, right. And you could, so I'm down with that.
No, I love that. I actually think that makes a lot of sense. There was one other thing about this game that I want to just talk about really quickly that maybe does dictate that Westbrook would be this is the argument. Okay.
Sure.
So it's not much of a narrative. First of all, Westbrook is not a guy who needs much of a narrative. You know what I mean? He's going to go out there.
He is like Revenge on the Sun setting. You know what I mean? Like I mean, he doesn't need to get up. He doesn't need anybody to tell him to get up to play.
No, but there are games where he does get extra. Like I think you get like extra bumps with him. And
you think Memphis is a big deal?
So I would say historically Denver, because Jamal Murray is a guy who's always gotten under his skin. He's always played well against Denver, for example. Going back to his past days in OKC, I think that John Morant, that's what they called him, Mini Westbrook, like his whole life growing up. And, and honestly, maybe it appeals to the softer side of Westbrook now that he's gotten older, but I don't think so. I sort of like the idea of it. I actually could see, I would worry that Morant, who got thrown out of the last game, so I'm not going to say he's generally passive, but he usually attacks most guys, but I've seen him be a little bit passive with a couple of the top point guards. I hope that's changed, and I think it has changed a little bit. But I could see these guys going after each other a little bit, and Westbrook sort of being stubborn and not wanting to give up. And even if he misses a bunch of his shots, I love the idea of him taking a bunch of shots to go with the inevitable near triple-double that he's probably going to end up with. So that's the only thing that would give Westbrook the edge. You have the Westbrook versus the new version of the new Westbrook, I guess. You know me, I'm a sucker for finding narratives.
Yeah. All right. So
All right.
I'll give 51% Westbrook and 49% Beal.
Okay. All right. What are we doing? What are we doing over here with the Clippers in Boston?
Dude, no respect. Freaking Kawhi Leonard under
Right,
9K, huh?
Yeah, I know.
I'll try it.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
that's some heavy duty number crunching analysis there. I mean, give me a break. And then not to mention Paul George at 8,400.
right.
I'll try one of those. And then I think they give Boston a little too much respect. I don't know. I kind of like one of those two. And then on Boston, I'm not particularly thrilled with anybody. What do you think about them apples?
I think it's interesting the Clippers are only a 4-point favorite. I'm not saying like go out and I'm just saying Boston at times looks completely lost. The Clippers when they're going. I mean, first of all, the Clippers are weird. Like they got smoked by Memphis, and then the next night they came back and they just beat the hell out of them. Like they're weird. They're weird. Like in that way, they actually play in a lot of blowouts. I agree with you about Paul George and Kawhi. There's some sticker shock there. I don't think this is a great matchup for them, but to go nuts. But I think if Jaylen Brown is out, then we're in business because then I think you can play one of those guys and pretty comfortably play Tatum or Kemba on the other side.
Right.
Now, it's not a good matchup for Kemba or Tatum individually, but if the game stays at all close, like that, unlike that Atlanta game where they just got walloped and Tatum was 4 for 20.
That was amazing.
That was, I mean, they gave up. And also Tatum, I mean, again, Tatum was 4 for 20. And I believe that, what's his name? Kemba was awful as well. Oh no, Kemba didn't play that night. That's right. But if we get no Jaylen Brown, that's going to open things up. Otherwise, I'm okay skipping these guys on this slate. It's not a good matchup for either of them. I do think, I mean, Tatum has been still actively vocal about how he's not the same person since COVID. He has got the minutes back up to that crazy high minute range, partially because out of necessity, and he hit the game winner the other night against my Wizards, unfortunately. I would need Jaylen Brown out, I guess, is where I'm at. Anybody for you over here?
No.
Yeah, it's hard without them being out.
Look, like you said, if you get one of those guys out, then the other guys, and you know who we're talking about, right? They're all good plays.
Right.
But if they're all in, it looks like they're pretty fair.
Yep, I agree. And you see why the Westbrook. This is part of what the issue with Westbrook and Beal is for me is that. So if they have a good game and get to 55 or 65 or 65 being even, they have a higher ceiling than that, but let's say 65 is a realistic ceiling. Like, doesn't Paul George and Kawhi get to 50 enough here at their price? And that's if they have a ceiling game. Not to mention that very likely, I mean, you got to think at least a good percentage of the time, maybe 25, 30% of the time that Kawhi or Paul George outscore Westbrook and Beal. It's going to happen. You know, they're going to score 50 here plenty of the time. Anyway, I remember Kawhi, like, it wasn't too long ago. It was like 11K. I don't know, like blowouts.
Maybe not 11K, but dang, this is.
They've been in some blowouts and they had some tough defensive games. And they had a really bad. George was just terrible the other day against Milwaukee for the first time. Like I could say that all year, where I thought that other than that Memphis game, that he's really been terrible. So yeah, I like those guys, and I actually think that you might get maybe lower ownership on them than you think.
All right, so we got one of the things we have to look into. By the way, I keep forgetting is we do have to like look at Super Draft one of these days. I'll do a little more work on it. And the other site that's popping up that people are talking about now is this Prize Picks. I have to figure out what that is and what that all means.
I'll put that on my notes for to look at during the All-Star break.
Yeah, because it's picking up some steam on other content providers. There are a lot of people are talking about it. And so I want to figure out exactly what it is. The only reason I mention it is I always think about, you know, that if you could play like head to head. I don't think that this does this, but you can play head to head. Like can I get odds that, for example, Kawhi gets more fantasy points than Bradley Beal? You know what I mean, or something like that.
Right.
Like I'd like to do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would try that. To that point, as we move ahead, I'll take my chances on, for example, not that he's a bad play necessarily, but I would take my chances on Kawhi over Trae Young. You know, with if I get some kind of odds, considering one's 8,800 and the other's 9,500. If they're going to price these guys that way, you know, let me take let me get 7 to 5 odds or something and take just straight up Kawhi versus Trae Young. I mean, I think that's possible.
I like it.
So I like Trae. He's fine. Pretty healthy price in this kind of matchup, I guess. I would try to go elsewhere before playing him, but he rates to be decent. Capella, I guess, is fine too, but I prefer the guys from the other side. I mean, presuming they play, right? I prefer Butler and Bam to, if this is even an adequate comparison, but I prefer Butler and Bam to Trae and Capella. I like the Atlanta. I like the Miami guys at their price more than the Atlanta guys at their price. I didn't quite get to any of the ancillary pieces in this game, pretty much at all. But again, you have to see who's playing. You know, if they rule out the whole country again, then you got to play.
You know, maybe back tonight is our boy, our good old boy from the old days when we used to just crush it with him.
Who?
Bogdanovich.
Oh, is he?
Which would mess everything up even more for them.
Yeah, it would mess it up even more. But maybe we can play him.
He's 3K.
Oh man,
he's 3K. I mean,
is he actually 3K?
He's exactly 3K, and he probably will have like a serious minutes restriction. I'm guessing.
General manager said he will be available for Tuesday's game on an unspecified minutes restriction.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, look. I mean,
I got bad news for you. I'm going to play a lineup with him.
Oh, there's no question I'm playing lineup. He's 3K and is doing that. I don't care.
You watch him play 20. You watch him play 29 minutes, and then they say, "Yeah, that was our restriction."
Right. Yeah. Exactly. His minutes will be monitored. Who did they say that about it last week? It was I can't remember. Was it? Oh yeah, we're monitor his minutes. Well, they monitored the 37 of them.
Yeah. You got the monitor. You got the monitor on that.
Yeah. Which takes obviously the best DFS player in the world, Tony Snell, out of play. Right. Anyway, just kidding about that one. Yeah, I'm sort of with you on. Well, the one guy you didn't mention is the guy who I would have the most interest in is John Collins.
Oh, you like him?
He's back in favor. He just put up 58 against this team the other day. He shot the ball 40 times his last 2 games. This is what happens with him, man. You have to catch the Collins little stretches. There are times where it's like Trae decides to let him shoot, or the team does. If I'm Atlanta, I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of this nonsense gimmick of a point guard that you have that you think is a great player who's really just nothing.
You froze on me just for just a minute. Okay.
Oh, it was me. It was just me bad mouthing Trae Young.
Okay.
Not bad mouth. Look, I just think he's the most overrated. He just doesn't play real life basketball in a way that could ever be. I just don't think he's a winner.
All right.
I think you put any other guard on that team. I think he's like the 5th guy I would take on this team if I had to choice. I think this team is a playoff team with anybody else. Potentially even without him. But anyway, I think he's viable because Miami's defense. Trae is viable because Miami's defense against the point guard position hasn't been what it used to be, especially when Dragic plays. They're much worse against the position.
Really? That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Nunn is a little better defender. Dragic just doesn't move his feet laterally as well anymore. And I've just noticed the point guard's getting to them a few times. So Trae is fine, but I just don't think I'm going to end up getting there. I do think that the Collins thing, I'm definitely willing to take some shots on him here. There's no reason not to go back to a guy who's going to be probably reasonably low. I don't know actually where he'll end up ownership-wise, but he did just put up 58 against this specific team. And like I said, when he starts shooting the ball, he's awesome. He can put up, like 40 is like should be like his floor when he's shooting the ball that many times. And so I'm good with him in this matchup, better than anyone else. I love Capella in general, and he's always under-owned, but I just don't think this is a great matchup for him. I still think he's a very good chance he gets, somewhere in the 40s, but it's not my favorite play. And then like Herter, all the other guys we were playing, Bogdanovich being back, all that is Rondo playing. It's going to hurt all those guys. So I'm not as interested. Even Okongwu, who's going to get a few minutes, the rookie. But I agree with you on the other side. I think if Butler plays, we have interest in him for sure. And if he doesn't play, I definitely like Bam. I just want to point out, people have said, I actually overheard it on a podcast this morning about how Bam, how Atlanta, is weak against big men. That's absolutely not true. That's something that used to be true. But it doesn't matter because the amount of usage that will go through Bam and Dragic and Hero all against a team that plays fast and doesn't play good overall team defense is plenty for me. So if no Butler, I will be playing shares of Dragic, Hero, and Bam. I'll probably even throw some Kelly Olynyk in there. I actually like this team. I mean, I want to attack Atlanta as much as I can. But my favorites would be Bam and Butler, if assuming everybody plays. Hero would be Hero and Bam, along with Dragic if Butler doesn't play.
Okay, I think I would like to attempt to summarize how that San Antonio game got to overtime yesterday. Because, I mean, you think about chaos theory and like all this stuff. Like, there was a point where they were literally, I would say, less than zero chance to go to overtime. I mean, it's not true, but so San Antonio missed a shot. They were up 2. Excuse me, the Nets were up 2 with the ball, right? They missed a shot, and then they cleared it out to Kyrie with 14 seconds to go. The shot clock was reset, okay? They literally had to foul because otherwise they could dribble the clock out. For whatever reason, Pop did not tell them to foul, okay? He said, Murray, just play defense, right? So Murray was playing just straight defense. I'm like, what are you doing? You have to foul, okay? But apparently Kyrie wasn't aware of this either, all right? And so he went past him. I'm like, okay. And then he had a wide open layup, which he shouldn't have been taking anyway, to go up 4, and that would be the end of the game. He missed it. Then San Antonio rushed it down. Now, the first thing is, as you know by watching the NBA now, when a team is down 2, they never go for 2 ever, okay? They always just try to go for 3. But whatever it is, they fumbled. DeJounte fell on the floor, picked up the ball with his foot on the line, and made an impossible 2-point shot at the buzzer to go to overtime. Okay? That's how that game got to overtime.
I didn't even see it, actually.
Oh, it was just amazing. Just amazing. Because I needed it. And I was like, oh my, how'd this happen? Because I had DeRozan and Kyrie. It didn't help. But I mean, it helped, but it wasn't enough.
Right.
So that, and then even so, in overtime with like 1:40 to go, it was like a 10-point game, you know, because the Nets were getting away, whatever, 8-point game. How do you ever see a coach pull his players and give up in overtime? I don't think I've ever seen that. I mean, I guess it's possible.
Once. I saw it one time with Golden State where I think Steph made five threes in the first. He has the record for 5 threes.
It was like an 8-point game, a 9-point game. And then I see like the Nets with their guys on the court. All of a sudden, all the Spurs were off the court. I'm like, what's going on? Like some other Spurs guy makes a basket and the announcer, well, I guess Pop just wants to give his guys rest, doesn't see the comeback coming. I don't think I've ever, I mean, it's probably not the worst thing, but I've never just seen that. I've never seen it's like my theory about like not necessarily having the closing lineup play the overtime, right? It's just not something anybody does. You always play out the overtime, you know?
Right.
So I mean, again, I was like a little steamed because I wanted one more shot for DeRozan to miss another shot.
Right.
I suppose. So in any case, they're right back at it at home against the Knicks. And I don't know what I want to do on the San Antonio side at all in light of all of that. I just don't. The only thing I know for sure is that I want to play Julius Randle. And aside from that, I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to go back to DeJounte Murray on the back-to-back overtime game. I don't want to know whether to go back on DeMar DeRozan. This is a pace-down matchup coming off of the higher-paced matchup last night, even though it didn't work out that way. So for me, I want to play Julius Randle, and I don't want to play anybody else.
Okay. I kind of am with you. Like I actually really appreciate, I think what you said is really important because this is a back-to-back. First of all, for those people who don't know and aren't paying attention to the standings or anything, San Antonio has been really good this year and was picked to be one of the worst 5 teams in the NBA. And they are nowhere near that. They're one of the, what are they, 4th in the West or 5th in the West right now? So congrats to them. They've been unbelievably, like, we all make fun of Popovich and he's terrible for DFS and all that stuff. But what a great, I mean, just an incredible coach. Like, it is incredible this team is as competitive as they are. But what you said has me my first thought was, okay, well, who are they sitting tonight? That was my first thought. I would expect, Aldridge to sit, but he only played 15 minutes last night, but he never plays back to, never.
And if the other guys were going to sit, they wouldn't have taken him out in the end of the overtime, right?
Right, and that sort of speaks to that. So the only guy who played like an absolute gallon of minutes last night was DeRozan. Even Murray only played. I mean, he played not only 36, but 36 in an overtime is pretty little. DeRozan played 42, but everybody else, it was pretty balanced out actually, or balanced out enough. I wonder about Podol. He did play 36 also, but I also wonder if Keldon Johnson comes back, and it's hard for me to rate what I want in this game. My first thought was, oh, I want to play Keldon Johnson because I don't know who else is going to play. We're not going to necessarily have the answers either by the time that happens, if Keldon Johnson even plays. And if Trey Lyles, Trey Lyles played 27 minutes last night, there's a lot of guys who are up there. Maybe the best thing for now is just cross them off until we hear if someone's out. The problem is that may not come until after lock. But realistically, even if one guy's out, you might need two guys out for anybody to be really like, oh, I need to play this guy. And then you have Lonnie Walker, who you had to literally his best game I've seen him have, put up 38 fantasy points last night. I'm not going to get there. So I guess you're right. I guess it is sort of to stay away. And I agree with the Randall thing, but what are your thoughts on the guy who I'm assuming is going to be pretty chalky or fairly chalky is Nerlens Noel?
Yeah. It's a good point per dollar play. It's fine. I mean, he's one of my top point per dollar plays. And I for whatever reason would kind of prefer a lower owned Brooke Lopez at 4,100. But yeah, he's fine. He's been doing well. He did really well for me the other day.
Sorry, go ahead, Sheets.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's certainly a good. It's the same thing. These point per dollar plays at center position. If you play him, you don't get to play Jokic for openers. You can't take your shot with Bam or Valanciunas if you want to do that. I don't know. He's fine. So he's going to be really chalky, you think?
I think he's going to be pretty popular, at least as of right now. I don't know if it'll change later on, but he's grading out well. I've got other people who are talking about him as the cash game play and all this stuff. So but the one thing I want to say about it though, it's interesting because Noel's always been the guy who, if Noel plays 30 minutes, he's going to put up 50. You know what I mean? Because his fantasy point per minutes has always been incredible. But you see what happens when you start playing the game a little longer. Those don't exactly translate into.
Well, exactly. I mean, we talk about this.
I know we have talked about this, and I think it's something that other people don't like. Oh, this is a 1.7 fantasy point per minute guy. We got to play him. I mean, even if
we played 40 minutes the other day, scored 23 fantasy.
I know, and that's just something to keep an eye on. But you do have a good matchup here against the Spurs, who have been pretty weak up front this season, and I like Randall a little bit as well. It's just you get into the Randall versus maybe the Beal and Westbrook because they're close in tier. The one guy I want to point out who no one is playing anymore, and his minutes have gotten back to being pretty secure, is RJ Barrett. He's done really well by me the last few games. He was a little cheaper the last couple of games out, and on Fanduel, I believe he was even 5,400 or something around there. And I think he's been 3 or 4% owned, but he's, 6x his price back-to-back games, 5.7 on Fanduel, 5.9 on DK today. I can get there, man. This San Antonio team doesn't play the greatest defense, and they play pretty quick. His minutes being there. So I sort of have a little bit of interest in him alongside, as well as Derrick Rose. I like both of them. I would give a slight edge to Barrett for position scarcity, but I think Rose is more likely to hit value. And, when everyone's off quickly, might be the time to get back on him. We know he can do a lot in a little bit of time. The problem is it really is just Rose and him playing the point guard. There's really nobody else doing it. But maybe in this matchup, he matches up a little bit better with the speed of Murray. At times San Antonio will play multiple point guards out there. Maybe we finally see a little bit of him out there with Derrick Rose. The problem is Ntilikina being back has sort of messed that up. So it's sort of weird everywhere. Everything feels speculative. Same thing with Alec Burks. But Randall, Rose, Noel, and Barrett are all I would have them all in somewhere around 20% of my lineups. As of this morning, that's my plan.
I gotta tell you, Tibbs is awesome, man. He runs the guy out 41 minutes, and then in a back-to-back, he runs him out 40.
For a guy who has never until recently had never played 30 minutes in a game.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass. I'm not doing it.
I like that take though, Sheiks. I like that you pointed that. I think that maybe I will get it, like, because I had him as early on one of the decent values, but I think that you're right. I think that
He is a good value. I mean, but whatever. I mean,
we don't need that. It's like you mentioned the center spot. You mentioned the other guys we could play there.
yeah, fine. You know what? Yeah, we'll try it. We'll get to Brooke Lopez in a second.
Okay. Well,
not that Lopez is great play, but I'll try.
Well, let's talk about some Brooke Lopez. Let's talk about this next game. Why don't you tell me your thoughts?
Yeah. So, so I have 4 guys from this game who are 4 guys. Yeah, from this game who are actually top 10 values for me. And again, whatever.
Is Giannis one of them?
The number 1 is Jokic.
Okay.
Number 2 is Brooke Lopez. Number 3 is Giannis, and number 4 is Monte Morris. And I haven't looked at Fanduel yet. I'm sure is Michael Porter Jr. still like 5K over there? I haven't.
No. And by the way, can I quickly I'm very annoyed at myself. Remember, I told you I kept ending up no matter what I did.
Yep.
And I didn't end up keeping. I broke it up a little bit because it was with Jokic and some of those. It was annoying. Anyway, sorry.
You forced him out.
I forced him out.
So here it is. This fills out the lineup. This is perfect. So we put Monte Morris over here. Then we put Brooke Lopez over here, and then we're done. Then we don't have to handicap the rest of the day. But yeah, I do like those as values, Lopez and Morris, and those are 2 obvious like tremendous spend ups, right? Giannis and Jokic. I mean, that's and they're in the same game against one another. That's a good one, right?
I mean, I haven't double checked the schedule, but well, I guess this game actually ends on a weird side. Let me see the NBA schedule real quick. This has got to be the game on TV today, right? Like,
well, if it isn't, then that's a problem.
I mean, how do you not have it? But I actually think it might not be. Yeah, tonight is oh no, it's yesterday.
So was this their last game before the All-Star break or no?
This is for which team? For Denver. It's Denver's last game. Let me double check on Milwaukee if they play tomorrow. It's Denver because they're on the back-to-back. Milwaukee is it's their last game. It's both teams' last game.
So this is a preview of the All-Star game, sort
of. Sort of, yeah. But yeah, no, tonight it's Clippers, Celtics, and Suns, Lakers tonight on TNT.
Really?
Yeah. It actually kind of makes sense because I mean, like when you see the time, you know, there's going to be
Giannis and Jokic TNT revenge.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, why not? Weird though. Like, so I'm interested. Okay, so oh man, I was filling it out on draft. Okay, there we go. Jokic on the back-to-back. Any concerns here?
Sure.
Sure.
But I mean, the guy scores 80 every game. I don't know.
He's a monster, but like, I'm just trying to go through his back-to-backs, and I did this a little bit earlier, but didn't find anything too concrete. He was pretty active and played a pretty good amount of minutes on the back-to-backs mostly. Yeah, he's a really strong play. I mean, I don't know what to say. He's not as strong a play to me as Giannis is. I'll just put it that way. I think that is a real conversation because if you play those 2 guys, you are really changing up what you do the rest of your roster.
Well, I mean, you're playing all kinds of of stuff that we've talked about.
But you're playing Brooke Lopez everywhere is what you're doing.
We're playing Brooke Lopez everywhere for sure. And then we're really getting into this Desmond Bain, Justice Winslow business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So I look, I'm with it. I think Giannis is the preferred play of the 2. I love the Brooke Lopez call. I'm curious if he gets really chalky though. I'm telling you, look, I know he matches up better from a physical standpoint with Jokic. And he's actually like one thing people don't give him credit for. He is an underrated defender. He's been a part of one of the best, most efficient defenses in the NBA for the past 3 years. And he is a better defender than he gets credit for, especially when it comes to guys who can't run past him, which is what Jokic can't do. So from that perspective, I like him. If something goes wrong there and he gets 2 quick fouls, I think Bobby Portis could have an absolute field day.
Absolutely.
So I'm very into the Bobby Portis as a different guy, but I'm totally with you on the Lopez call. I also haven't heard a lot of buzz about it, which makes me feel excited.
Nah, he'll be buzzed. I mean, look, it's the same game log watching as Noel sort of. I mean, Lopez played 35 minutes the last 2 games, right?
He played 30 and 35, but he also it does seem to be somewhat like matchup dependent, although it's hard to track exactly which matchups they like him in because
That's true.
it's strange. Like they do weird things with him. And sometimes, you know, like a guy like Jokic, maybe you could argue sometimes maybe a younger, quicker guy who's like a little aggravating could bother him more like Portis, but I don't think so. I think that it's going to be Lopez for most of the game. I think he'll play his 27 minutes, 28 minutes, and that's good enough for me at 4,100.
Anybody else from Milwaukee or anybody?
I can't find anything on Milwaukee, anything else on Milwaukee that makes any sense with Holiday back. I would say that this would not surprise me if this was a blowout. For Milwaukee. I mean, Denver's really, really not been very good at all in general. And they also, I mean, they probably should have lost that game to the Bulls last night. And they're coming off a back-to-back with travel on the road, some fans in the stadium, all the things sort of.
So it's more of a justification for Portis, huh?
More of a justification for Portis. And honestly, like, you know, I don't know. I really like Giannis here. I really like Lopez. I like Portis. I don't think I'm getting to anybody else here. I wouldn't fault anybody for Middleton. It just feels like a weird time to play him right when Holiday's back now. Holiday's not going to play enough minutes to where it's going to matter. Milwaukee, by the way, has still been basically as good or the best team in the NBA when they had Drew Holiday on the court. So just keep that in mind. They're really, really good. He changes everything for them. And because of it, I'm not really like going out of my way. It's just interesting to see Michael Porter Jr. have the kind of game he did last night. And by the way, it could have been a much bigger game even. It was a lot of, you know, I mean, he had 15 rebounds for Christ's sake. And he didn't shoot the ball. He shot the ball only 10 times. So Michael Porter Jr. is definitely on the board for me at 60. They lowered his price to 6,700. So he's on the board for me. Jamal Murray, I'm not going to go for it. The one guy, what do we do if PJ Dozier is out? And even if he's not, like this Vladko Kankar played 20 minutes last night. It speaks to the blowout thing. I'm just sort of thinking out loud here, so give me a minute. And he and Zeke Nnaji, just both as complete punt plays, are just on my list. And I just had to mention them. I don't know where I stand with them. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing or what value we get. But if PJ Dozier ends up out on the back-to-back after coming back from an injury, that could open up some more things, especially Monte Morris and Porter being the number 1 and 2. But the other thing could be we could get more minutes from Vlatko Kankar. I can never pronounce this guy's name right. Yeah, so just wanted to mention that. I do really like Monte Morris. I like the Monte Morris idea. You can get some business in this game. I think Morris is a really solid play, but I don't love the upside that he's flashed lately. Maybe on the back-to-back without Dozier, he gets a little bit of a bump if Dozier is in fact out. Now I'm speculating. And if Dozier plays, I actually think he's a much better punt as of right now today because A, there aren't other really great punts that I love, and B, actually I guess it's just A. And there's less games on the schedule, all that stuff. So he would be the guy I'd be reaching for, I guess, a little bit, but I still consider it a high variance tournament play.
I really hope that I don't build a perfect lineup that has exactly 3K left, because I'm going to really have to decide between Zeke and Bogdan for that lineup.
Oh man, what world are we living in?
Well, Zeke is probably the better play. But...
Yeah, probably. Well,
except Zeke's not scoring 30.
Yeah, that's the thing is that there's Bogdanovich could come in and hit 4 or 5 threes and boom, you're there. You know what I mean? Quickly. Yeah. So it is harder for Zeke to get there, but if the minutes go his way, I do like Milwaukee in that game though, and I think that they are going to beat them pretty.
What's the spread there? 6.5 or something?
7, yeah. And I kind of like the under, but I think it's close. You want to talk Phoenix and the Lakers, because I think we're going to be able to do something here too.
Let's not play anything.
I don't think so. I don't think that's the right answer here.
Well, this is the way I was looking at this game. I mean, first of all, I would like to mention that that ceiling Booker finally showed up. Yep. It's amazing what a matchup with Minnesota could do.
Yeah, nice way to get healthy.
He shot 26 times also. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just kind of looking at this. If this is these guys' last game before the All-Star break too. I mean, I don't know. Booker's playing in the All-Star game. LeBron's playing in the All-Star game. I don't know if Chris Paul's playing the All-Star game. I don't know. To me, it's like going to be like a slow, lazy game. No, you think it's going to be a big a game to attack?
I like the. I mean, first of all, LeBron is a great play that is going to be completely overlooked today. Everybody's going to side. All the projections are going to love all the other stuff, and I'm here to remind you, LeBron James. So this is. Let me just go through the Anthony Davis being out games, and maybe it'll give some idea. So against Washington, that was overtime. He got 62. And he didn't play very well in that game, by the way, but he still had 62. The Utah game, I watched that game. It was literally it was like watching kids play with grown men. They just got smoked. Then they have the tough game against Portland, who obviously is a bad defensive team, but LeBron just goes completely off, put up 67. And then you have the blowout against Golden State. So we don't really have a great pool to choose from the recent when AD's been out. Even with Schroeder back, first of all, I kind of like Schroeder, but I don't think I'm going to end up doing it. I think Markieff Morris we have to start talking about because he's playing minutes, and when he plays minutes, he can absolutely get there. So I've got him as a pretty high value play early in the day. It's probably going to dwindle later in the day because there's probably going to be other things that open up. And I think there might be doing something a little bit different with Harrell. We saw against Portland that they left him in down the stretch, and that's all I wanted to see all year long from Harrell. So I have some interest there. And I like Chris Paul on the other side. I mean, competitive games, part of Chris Paul's appeal is when the games are close, like he basically is almost always putting up between like 40 and 50, pretty much always. It's only when they're blowouts that they don't go that way. Or if like Booker goes crazy hot or something like that happens. But I mean, you look at him, he's put up 40, 43, 50, and 50 in his last 3 games. I don't think there's any matchup that really particularly scares me with his style of play. And the Lakers are not, even though they play good team defense, I don't think Chris Paul benefits necessarily from playing these super fast teams or anything. I really don't. I think that he's fine in he likes to play half court. He likes to play, he's playing against his old buddy, him and LeBron are good friends, obviously from a long time ago. He's probably a little bit, it was supposed to end up being with these guys together. So I like Chris Paul. I like DeAndre Ayton too. I know it's not an ideal matchup for Ayton, but he's looked better to me lately. 6,700 is more than reasonable. And I think he's playing much more effectively. I'd like to see him rebound more. I'd like to see him on the court more, but that's where I'm at. And then, I have mild interest in all these guys. I don't have that interest in Devin Booker. It feels like reaching to me to play him, but I do like Jay Crowder, and I'm very willing to gamble there. And then my guy from the other day, Sheets, and I'm just going to quickly talk about Friday. So Cameron Johnson, I played Cameron Johnson, and this is one thing that drives me crazy about coaches. So he comes into the first half against against Chicago, and he puts up, he gets 3 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the game. So they take him, 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes. But they take him out, and he's not even closing for them. Why the hell are they taking him out if you're not closing anyway? And then in the second half, so he has 0 fantasy points at halftime, and I'm going, geez, why didn't I play him over Kenrich Williams? Gets hot in the second half, he puts up 15 and a half. If I get like 10 more out of him, I win all the money that night, every bit of money. It's all mine, and really frustrating. So that's just looking back at it. But he's 3,300. He's gonna play minutes tonight. He's on my list. Again, there's a lot of wings they have. A lot of it, to be honest, a lot of it depends on what happens with Saric. I'll have much more interest if Saric is out, and you got to keep an eye out with Phoenix for their starting lineup because every now and then they'll throw Kaminsky out there. And if Kaminsky plays 20 minutes, mildly interesting. Look, we're starving for value. That's why I'm bringing all these guys up. But those are I do think that of all of them, the one that definitely makes the most sense, especially if Saric is out, is Jay Crowder, coming off a terrible game. No, I don't care at all. I think Jay Crowder at 4,500 is completely reasonable. And we're just going to have to see, what happens with Saric, basically. And I actually think that Saric news is going to be pretty significant by the end of the day. I don't buy that the minutes are going to spread out quite as much this game. This is Phoenix's last game too. And going into the All-Star break, you're on national TV, you want to leave a good performance out there. So that's where I am with this one. I actually think that LeBron on one side, Chris Paul, and then all those other pieces are really, really interesting.
So after going through these games, we're going to go back to Fanduel in a second, but you're going to have to remind me again not why I would want to, but give me a reason to fade Moran again. Because I'm just right back to that game again.
It depends on what opens up for value, stars and scrubs.
No, but you were getting into some basketball related thing or something for him.
Oh, just that he consistently doesn't get there because
Okay.
of how many guys they have.
Okay.
And I mean, there's been a lot. They've also played in so many blowouts. It's kind of hard to track his exact realistic projections.
Okay.
But even when they haven't, I mean, a guy who's going to be, if he ends up like 40, 50% owned, I'm saying, which I think is pretty possible. That's the argument for fading him. I mean, you're trying to find arguments to fade him. Also, you've got other guys in the same team. The bench unit could easily take over and they'll sit him in those times for a long period of time.
Did you watch the Portland Charlotte game?
Just a little bit of it.
So do you see the rotations, by the way? So Lillard played like, first quarter like he usually does.
Yep.
And they checked him right in with 3 minutes to go in the second quarter.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise. Well, the bench and I think especially Melo were playing well, right?
Bench was doing well, and then the other thing is that people were whining about it, but they were actually, I think, at the bench with like 6 minutes to go, and they never got a stoppage.
Oh yeah, I mean, and with those kind of up and down teams, yeah, a lot can happen in that quick time. Yeah, it makes sense.
You want to go to Fanduel? And,
yeah, real quickly, I would love to, because I'm trying to figure it out for myself. I know it's first look, so guys, I'm always going to be a little more iffy on my first looks than I will be by the end of the day. But right now, I've got like a bunch of guys in the same tier below Morant. I still have Morant as the highest owned guy I'll have, but I'm just looking at, I might end up changing that later on. But Paul George, Brooke Lopez, Brandon Clark, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Giannis, Noel. Actually, I have less of Noel. John Collins, Julius Randle, and then you get into all the ifs and if they're not this guy, that guy, like depending on if Jimmy Butler's out. Which I would just guess Jimmy Butler would play the last game before the All-Star break, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, we can move over to FanDuel.
All right. So as we fill this out like on the fly, point guard position, my two favorite plays are from the same game, and that would be the aforementioned Russell Westbrook and the aforementioned, let's go all the way down. Yeah, John Morant's cheaper than Drew Holiday. Thank you very much. So I will. So those are the two. And then if you wanted to go value, you can roll back. Patty Mills at 3,900. You could try Monte Morris at 48.
Yeah, it's maybe not quite as much excitement out of this. If Jimmy Butler's out, I'll just go with Dragic as my guy for value. I don't mind Schroeder. It's weird because he just had the COVID protocols, but he didn't play all the minutes the other night. And even when I know that they blew him out, but didn't look like he was going to play all the minutes either. Both games since then, even the game against Portland, which was close, he wasn't playing down the stretch. I thought he'd play 35 minutes in that game that close. So I'm just a little bit worried about Schroeder, but I still like him too. The main guys, yeah, it's going to be Westbrook and Morant though, mostly. I honestly, Trey would be the other one. And I'm not in love. Maybe we're overthinking. I mean, Kemba at 6.8 is pretty reasonable. CP at 7.9 is reasonable. So those would be, I guess, the other ones. But I don't feel like there's anybody other than Westbrook and Morant who really stand out.
Shooting guard, no respect. Paul George, 7,900. God bless America.
Hard to fade that one.
Yep. And then you got DeRozan if you want to do it in back-to-back overtime, not my thing. Or we could continue the Memphis suicide stack and play either Bane at 3,500 or Dylan Brooks at 5,200. And then another guy who remains cheap, and he still has, that shot is Alec Burks at 4,400.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that Alec Burks off the board call.
He's off the board, so we'll throw that in just for.
I think that's cool. I think that's an interesting. Look, Burks really has he can put up points in a hurry. This one also comes down a lot to Jimmy Butler for me because I'll be obsessed with Tyler Hero here. I really love Tyler. Actually, I think Tyler Hero has a great chance to succeed anyway in this matchup, even without these guys. But I do like Tyler Hero. I don't know that I'm going to get to Bane, but I think there's the upside there, especially in this kind of a matchup. Washington can get sloppy too. Bane can get a couple steals, maybe a block, and automatically, he can do all those kind of things. He gets all over the court. Kevin Huerter, a little more interesting on me on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. It's not really price related. It's more just like all of these plays, Dylan Brooks, and other than Dylan Brooks and Paul George, actually, other than just Paul George, I don't really love this position. Period. I really don't. I kind of hate everybody's prices. The only one who really stands out to me other than them is Lonnie Walker. And I don't love playing him off the, again, ceiling-ish game, but he is 4,200. That's a pretty cheap price tag for a guy who's projected to play 30 minutes and is pretty active. So mostly it's going to be Brooks, George, and Walker for me, with maybe a little bit of mixing some of this other nonsense in.
I have a question. Did Chris Middleton make the All-Star team?
I believe he did.
Okay, that sucks.
Not 100% sure, but he's not the kind of guy I would want to take that advantage of that with either. But I still love him. I mean, look, he's gonna be a great play on Fanduel tonight.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So it's small forward. Either the two Denver guys, Barton or Porter. Barton definitely looks pretty tempting at 4,900. I have to say that. But obviously,
you mean the guy I once called, as of yesterday, the worst play on the you can play in DFS?
Yeah, it could be.
That was my yesterday call.
So 6,300. Porter's a little more expensive, but he's got higher raw points probably because of that. So Barton and Porter, one of the two, but not both. Middleton. Yeah, Kawhi does not get the same lack of respect here as he did over on DraftKings. Boy, oh boy, like he's the same price as Paul George on DraftKings. I mean, here he's like his mentor. I mean, look at this. It's like $2,000 more than Paul George over here. So I like Middleton, even with what's his name back. And then it's kind of brutal. I'll give you a shot at RJ Barrett here, maybe.
Yep.
At 5,700. Butler's expensive. Yeah, small forward's kind of rough. You want to play a low-owned, what's his face over here, like LeBron, you could do that. But it's going to start with Middleton. I'm gonna put in Middleton with Barton, but I'll start with that.
Yeah, so there's a chance I play Barton tonight. I'm not sure what that real chance is going to be, especially if Dozier plays again. Just it eats into some of the minutes. I see 34 minutes projected on the back-to-back. Maybe he does play the 34 minutes.
34 minutes. That's a lot of minutes.
He's projected for 34. He played 36 yesterday. And part of why I hated him yesterday is why would his minutes logically go up as they add bodies back who play essentially the same position and have the same role? And sure enough, they play him. He comes off 27 and 22 minutes and plays 36. Okay. So I was a little stupefied by that whole thing. I definitely prefer just going Middleton, Michael Porter Jr. here.
Yeah,
Barton's active. He can always do things, but it just feels like, God, what can't we find the extra 800 to play Barrett? You know what I mean? Can't we do something a little bit different? Can't we, we do have sure minutes also out of Duncan Robinson, who's going to play 30 plus minutes no matter what, and probably 35 minutes. The guy who's sneaky, who I really like, is Rui Hachimura.
Ooh.
And I think that he's been really quiet. It's fine by me. The minutes will be there. He gets into foul trouble sometimes. That happens. We're going to have to deal with variance if you want to play these tournaments. Hasn't put up a really big game in a while. But a night like tonight and a good pace team like Memphis, I think we might see a nice game out of Hachimura tonight, and I don't expect anyone to play him. The other guy who I mentioned briefly on DraftKings is Mikhail Bridges. People get stuck on these bad game logs. The weird part is that Bridges has actually been incredibly consistent. I mean, we would take 30 from a guy who's around 5,300 today, and he's been really consistent lately. I'd like to see him shooting the ball more. He does enough other things on the court that make me happy. They've also played in a couple blowouts, so that makes things a little tricky to keep track of him because he would have gotten like at least 40 in one of those games. He only played like 28 minutes or something. But Bridges is going to play all the minutes he can handle against the Lakers. I think he might actually have upside in this 32-minute projection. Maybe it could even be like 36. So he's the guy who I like as my sleeper along with Hachimura.
Yeah, power forward. So there's Giannis, who's just really, really good play. And Bam, who I think is a really good play.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're back to the aforementioned Nerlens Noel. If he's going to be, I guess he's going to be popular. I don't have to play him. I could play Daniel Tice if I felt like it. Maybe I don't want to, but I could. But I like Bam. Obviously I like Giannis. I can't like everybody. And Randall, 9,500. It's got a little pricey over here, but I like him. But I guess I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if I want to. I mean, I guess I have to start with Giannis, right? Like, first I was looking at, like, I don't want to play Giannis, and I can't play these other great players I want to play. But maybe Giannis is the great player you're supposed to start with and figure out the other pieces. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I could see it going other ways. I mean, Jokic does stay under the basket quite a bit, and Giannis attacks a lot. Like, it's not a guarantee that he has to have a monster game. We did just get Holiday back. But I do. I mean, look, I really like Giannis. I'm not trying to say that Giannis isn't a great play, and you're just high ownership and high price. You want to try and find ways to avoid maybe, and maybe the way to do that is dropping down a little bit and playing Julius Randle, who you mentioned earlier, and or Bam. I like those. I like maybe you can find a combination there. Noel certainly stands out more to me over here.
You like your Jay Crowder over here?
And I like Jay Crowder.
Okay.
So those are the guys who I'm looking at right now. The one other guy who probably deserves more of a talk than he's gotten. Again, talking about blowouts and then weird rotations and stuff. I mean, I'll just say without Anthony Davis, you have Kyle Kuzma averaging almost, I think what is he averaging 9.5 rebounds a game without Davis on the season, I believe. That immediately is like gives him at least a decent enough floor if the game stays close. So I wish he also is a guy who, I mean, historically he can block some shots. He can be active on the defensive end, get a few steals. Phoenix is not a real sloppy team, but I'm just looking for other guys. So Kuzma at 53, I think is a reasonable price for him. Somewhere between Kuzma and Crowder, I think are your values. And I'm sorry, along with Noel. A little bit too much for my guy Brandon Clark over here, but boy, I'm telling you, it wouldn't surprise me if he paid it off. But yeah, I think you really, Giannis and Noel are kind of the obvious chalk plays over here.
So center, I mean, you're scaring me a little bit with the talk on Valanciunas on the back-to-back, or not, it wasn't back-to-back necessarily, but the high-paced matchup. But at 7K, I might be forced to try it. Fits in with my other parts of this game. So he's my favorite. Well, obviously Jokic is the favorite, but I don't know, man. I think I could. I don't think I'm gonna be there. It's the best I could describe it. So I will. I'll say Jonas is my favorite, and then I really don't feel like playing Paul. If what's his name is out, like say Butler's out, or somebody maybe like Olynyk, like you were mentioning earlier, 4,400, you can do that. I don't know if I'm going to pay up for Capella. I guess it's just Jonas. Jonas for me is my favorite.
I mean, like, it's a tough position. It's hard not to want to play Jonas when you look at the position, to be honest. So I'm with you. I'm with you so much. Like, I wish Bam was actually center eligible over here because I'd be playing him. I still think that Ayton's in play, but I'm not going to do it. Really, talk about a guy who's going to be owned on one side and won't be owned on the other side. Maybe interesting Brooke Lopez, but a little bit more than obviously you want to spend. But I mean, is it really that hard? We want him to get 25 to 30 anyway. That might be good enough here. Yeah, I think Joval is the main play here. I don't love the back-to-back for Podol. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind going there. Joval and Jokic certainly seem like the guys you want to try to get in. Again, don't love the matchup for Capella, but he always has a ceiling. Like, I think that it's going to be Capella, Joval, Jokic, and probably end up with Olynyk in terms of realistic guys I'm going to fit in. Maybe the Olynyk thing we're underrating actually a little bit, just because I mean he's been getting reasonable minutes. He hasn't played especially well in those minutes. I think we don't need Butler out, but if we do get Butler out, I do think that it helps him a little bit, just in terms of getting a few more shots off. Although Butler's a pretty good teammate too, just open up some more minutes. Yeah, boy, it's not my favorite position. Jokic, I think I might have to go chalk here for Jokic and Valanciunas.
Okay.
All right. Good. Pretty much in shape here. Guys, hopefully that was helpful. We will be back with you at 6 Eastern. And we only got 2 more days before the All-Star break, so let's make some money tonight.
Sounds good.
All right. Good luck, everybody.